The Bank of France. In 2010, a man named Tony Mousseline, who worked as a security van driver in Lyon, France, quietly pulled off one of the simplest and most audacious heists in French history. Mousseline had been transporting money for years and knew the routes, schedules, and security blind spots. One afternoon, while alone in the van, he simply drove off with it. No weapons, no accomplices, and no violence. He parked it in a hidden garage, unloaded the cash, and disappeared. The authorities were baffled. There had been no break-in, no alarm. Days later, the van was discovered empty, and most of the money was eventually recovered in a rented storage unit. But Mousseline himself had fled to Monaco and then turned himself in shortly after. He refused to say what happened to the rest. Even after serving time in prison, he never revealed where a missing portion of the money went. Altogether, he had stolen just over $11 million in cash without ever using a single weapon. Loomis Fargo. David Gaunt was a vault supervisor for Loomis Fargo in North Carolina and fell in love with a co-worker named Kelly Campbell. She introduced him to a man named Steve Chambers, and together they came up with a plan to rob the vault. One night in 1997, Gaunt stayed after hours and loaded over a ton of cash into a van. Then he fled to Mexico, leaving Chambers and Campbell to handle the money in the U.S. But the plan quickly unraveled. Chambers started spending lavishly, buying a mansion, luxury cars, and making obvious bank deposits. The FBI grew suspicious, and surveillance caught him talking about the robbery. Gaunt, still in Mexico, was eventually arrested and extradited. Everyone involved was caught within a year. The total stolen was around $17 million in mostly small, untraceable bills. Dunbar Armored. A man named Alan Pace worked as a regional safety inspector for Dunbar Armored and used his position to plan the perfect inside job. In 1997, he convinced 5 friends to help him break into the Los Angeles Dunbar facility. He had memorized security camera positions, schedules, and vault layouts. On the night of the robbery, they entered using keys Pace had taken earlier, ambushed the guards one by one, and dragged bags of money into a rented U-Haul truck. They completed the entire heist in under 30 minutes and left barely any evidence behind. For years, no one knew who had done it, until one of the crew members made a critical mistake by giving some of the stolen money to a friend who was being investigated. The operation had taken less than an hour. They got away with over $18 million in untraceable bills. Hatton Garden. Over the Easter weekend in 2015, a group of elderly thieves in London disabled the elevator shaft in an old office building, climbed down to the basement, and used power tools to drill through 2 meters of concrete. They worked in complete silence, returning multiple nights while the city was shut down for the holiday. No alarms were triggered, and the guards assumed the vault was safe. The gang left behind barely any evidence, but one of them had parked a car too close to the scene, which led investigators to identify the group. Their ages shocked the public. The oldest was 76. Despite their planning, sloppy mistakes gave them away. After weeks of surveillance, the police arrested them and discovered part of the loot in garages and storage lockers. They had stolen around $20 million in cash, diamonds, and jewelry from over 70 deposit boxes. Société, Générale, Tunnel. In 1976, a gang of thieves led by Albert Spaghiari spent months tunneling into the vault of the Société Générale bank in Nice, France. They used the city's sewer system to access the underground vault and worked mostly at night, carefully avoiding any detection. They even camped out inside the tunnel, eating meals and leaving messages behind like, "without hate, without violence, and without weapons." On the weekend of the heist, they broke through the vault wall, opened hundreds of safety deposit boxes, and left without leaving a trace. Spaghiari was eventually arrested, but he escaped by jumping out of a judge's office window and vanished for the rest of his life. The heist was so clean and poetic that it became legendary. In total, the gang made off with over $30 million worth of valuables. British Bank of the Middle East. In 1976, during the Lebanese Civil War, a group of robbers aligned with Palestinian militants used the chaos in Beirut to carry out a raid on the British Bank of the Middle East. They blasted through the wall of a neighboring church to gain access and brought in a team of professional locksmiths to crack open more than 100 safe deposit boxes. The streets outside were full of fighting, so the authorities didn't respond in time. The gang spent 2 full days inside the bank, using acetylene torches and drills completely uninterrupted. Once done, they disappeared into the city, and no arrests were ever made. It's believed they took up to 20 tons of gold, jewelry, stocks, and foreign currency, worth around $40 million at the time. Northern Bank. In December 2004, a group of masked men in Belfast, Northern Ireland, carried out one of the most precise and intimidating heists in UK history. They entered the homes of 2 senior bank employees on the same night, holding their families hostage and forcing the employees to go to work the next day as if nothing was wrong. Under threat, both men cooperated, allowing the robbers to enter the bank's cash center undetected after hours. The group loaded crates of cash onto a delivery van and vanished into the night. Authorities suspected paramilitary involvement, but no one was ever convicted. The case remains unsolved. The thieves stole over $50 million in cash from the Northern Bank headquarters in Belfast, much of which was never recovered. Knightsbridge security deposit. In 1987, an Italian criminal named Valerio Visce posed as a customer wanting to rent a box at the Knightsbridge Safe Deposit Center in London. Once inside, he pulled out a gun, overpowered the manager, and let in a team of accomplices. They locked the staff in a vault and hung a sign on the front door saying the place was closed. For hours, they ransacked box after box, leaving with briefcases and duffel bags full of valuables. After the job, Vichy fled to South America but later returned to the UK to retrieve a Ferrari and was immediately arrested. During a police search of his home, they found massive amounts of the stolen goods. The heist brought in an estimated $97 million in cash, jewelry, and bonds. Banco Central. In 2005, a group of Brazilian criminals rented a house near the Banco Central in Fortaleza and posed as a landscaping company. Over the course of 3 months, they dug a tunnel stretching more than 250 feet underground, leading straight into the bank's vault. The tunnel was professionally built with lighting, ventilation, and wooden supports. On a weekend when the bank was closed, they broke into the vault from below and quietly removed bag after bag of cash without triggering any alarms. The theft wasn't discovered until the following Monday, giving them a head start. Police launched a massive investigation, arresting dozens of suspects over time. But even years later, most of the people involved in the money itself were never found. In total, they stole around $160 million in unmarked Brazilian currency, making it the largest bank heist in recorded history. Central Bank of Iraq. In March 2003, just days before the U.S. invasion of Iraq, someone walked into the Central Bank of Iraq with a handwritten note signed by Saddam Hussein. The note ordered the withdrawal of nearly $1 billion from the vault. Bank officials complied, and forklifts were used to move bricks of cash into trucks. Saddam's son Qusay supervised the operation personally. The money vanished overnight. When American troops entered Baghdad weeks later, they found hundreds of millions stuffed in walls and hidden under palaces. But a large portion was never recovered. It remains the largest bank robbery executed by a government itself, with around $920 million taken in a single day. If you liked this video and want to see more of it, subscribe.